So I'd like to move on now and basically to talk about the synergy of the code. I've mentioned several times how there is no emotion, there is peace. They all they're very overarching, and there are many parts of the code that sort of refine that slightly more so. So, while there are individual lines in the code, the entire thing should be taken as a whole. It should be taken holistically. Because, passion and emotion, peace and serenity, ignorance, foolishness, knowledge and wisdom, chaos and death, serenity and the force, all those sorts of things, they're all aspects of Jediism as a whole, and the sum of each of those is less than the value of all of them combined into a single Jedi. There are obvious similarities between the sections, but ultimately it's the subtle differences of each that are of great importance, and must all be understood at least just to the extent of a personal understanding to each part. So I mentioned at the beginning that there's an alternate phrasing of the code, and ultimately it's just sort of a semantic issue. It means the same thing, but a lot of people I've seen, I think, and in the thread I mentioned earlier, which I will try to find again, a lot of the time I think it's misquoted. The meaning behind the code is sort of more apparent in this version than it is in the original format. So the newer version, the alternate version of the code, goes like this: emotion yet peace, ignorance yet knowledge, passion yet serenity, chaos yet harmony, fear yet courage, foolishness yet wisdom, death yet the force. That is a much more concise way of explaining it. It gets across the point that each part shouldn't be taken as literal truth. And it this version kind of highlights the futility that each Jedi will ultimately face, hopefully overcome, but ultimately face, in trying to gain a greater understanding and to become more at peace with their self. Another way of saying that, as Master Jester would say, is we are practicing Jedi. We aren't perfect Jedi. Just some personal notes, I suppose. My name's Akkarin, or Akkarin Hanlar if you go by my full name, but just Akkarin is fine. I am also ignorant. To say otherwise would be to say a lie. I do not and cannot ever claim to know all that there is, yet alone to understand all of it. And as such, what I've talked about is and always will be up for revision based on mine and others' wisdom. I hope ultimately to have spread some light on any question you might have on the codes, and more importantly, I hope that listening to this has at least made you think. Even if you don't agree, it has at least made you think. That's the important thing. So, I'd like just to say now to say my farewells, to say goodbye. So, in true Jedi fashion, may the Force be with you always.